Jennifer and Tiffany, instructional coaches in Moffat County School District. You're listening to Pivot, Inspire, Elevate. This podcast is dedicated to helping you pivot instruction, inspire others, and elevate learners at all levels. We believe you should never stop growing, never stop learning, never stop sharing.
Okay, welcome to episode 4. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about elements that focus on the design area that helps students continually loop through the content they're learning so they could integrate new knowledge with old. We're working on the design area called using strategies that appear in all types of lessons. And when planning, teachers might ask themselves these questions in this area. How can I help students preview new content? How might students highlight critical information, review content, revise their knowledge, reflect on their learning? What might purposeful homework be? How can I help students elaborate on information, and then how will I as the teacher organize students to interact? So really, these are the strategies that often appear in most lessons. Would you agree?
Most
Lessons. Okay. We didn't say this was professional.
That's right.
We're speaking with friends. Okay, so the elements though that we're going to focus on. So as always, design areas have more than one or two elements, but when we pick a couple out, we pick ones out that we use most often. Most always.
That's usually what we pick.
Yeah. And so today we're going to be talking about element 19, which is reflecting on the learning, because we really know that reflecting on your learning is more powerful than the learning, right?
Correct.
Isn't that what's, yeah. Okay.
Correct.
And then element 22, organizing students to interact, which can be a managerial daunting task sometimes. You just want kids to sit, just don't move, because it's hard to manage that. And I don't care if you're kindergarten or you're high school, because really high schoolers are kindergartners with hormones. And if anybody thinks they're different, they're not different.
They are not. Nope.
Actually, I would
just
think,
how tall they are. That's
and I think there's a lot of elementary that just kind of want to, yeah, agreed. Yep. Okay. Go ahead, Jen.
All right. So I'm going to talk to you guys about reflecting on learning. So the strategies in this element help students reflect on their learning and the learning process. I really liked, I quoted this in my notes, that Marzano says, these are not merely activities to be checked off. They are methods of creating a practice that combines your art with the science of reflecting on learning. So some of the things I'm going to talk about would just be things that you can do in your classroom, that you probably, a lot of these I think I see a lot, but it doesn't hurt to point them out and have us be a little more intentional about doing some of these things.
Yeah, because sometimes we do things and we think this will be fun, and then we don't realize, because we're often not reflecting on our own teaching and going, wow, that was successful, I'm going to repeat this. So I think when we name it and we say, oh yeah, this really was powerful, I'm going to be intentional about doing this more often in different content areas or throughout different units. Yeah.
So one of the first ones I pulled out was reflective journals. And this reminded me of a thing that I saw over the summer. I think it was Stephanie Howell. I think it is Howell. Stephanie Howell, who shares a lot of stuff on technology integration. She had this weekly share out document. It's a weekly reflection for the kids. And it reminded me when my kids were in middle school, once a week they would send home an email to parents kind of telling the grades that they had for that week or the week before, I think. I don't know if they still do that, but it just got me to thinking, so why couldn't we add reflection to that?
Mm-hmm.
So the kids would have a template and they would just simply fill in their grades, and then there is a spot on a template that she created that you could definitely utilize for your learning. We're going to have that linked somewhere when you guys get a chance to look, but
Yeah.
at any rate, just to add reflection to that. So we're going to share the grades, so maybe we have some reflection questions about how they felt the week before was, maybe some just reflection in general. I can't remember now off the top of my head what the reflection question was on the template that I'm going to have linked for you guys, but so another,
I just pulled it up.
oh gosh, that was so smart to pull it up.
Well, you had it linked. Jen forgets how organized she is.
I like the something I would like to change for next week.
That's the thing that I saw on there, because that goes with that. What was the one that as teachers we do when we're in a learning situation? What was the one? One thing I will keep, one thing I will
continue.
Well,
no, that's keep. So,
yeah.
So it was continue. I'm thinking of stoplight. Continue, slow
Change.
down or change, and stop.
Was it stop doing?
It was stop.
Which we need to think about that.
Yeah.
What do I not? Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's great. I don't know why that couldn't be different for kids, because yeah.
Yep.
I don't need to.
What I also liked about that template was that there was a spot for the kids to say the main reason for my rating of myself, for however they rated themselves. So they're explaining why they chose that, which I think is, again, that reflection piece that's pretty powerful when they put it.
Yeah,
into
because
words.
I'm looking at it and it says this week was, and they have emojis from
Yeah.
terrible to awesome and everything in between, and then they rate that, and that goes back to which everyone in our district in Moffat County is working on HRS.
Yes.
And that's that student level one of their own thinking. And I heard today from others that they're having students do different kind of surveys, and is it a safe and whatever environment? This is information right there for them to really be thinking about how much control they even have in their own environment.
Yep.
Where it's not things we're doing to them. We need to have student agency and advocacy back again.
Yep.
Okay.
A great place
Good.
to reflect.
Yes.
So another one that I hear a lot, thinking logs, but often when I see thinking logs, it's with little direction. So this one again reminded me of something that I heard from, I think it was Holly Clark. If you guys haven't seen the infused classroom stuff, she's got some really good stuff.
Yep.
But she was sharing about Project Zero. And what Project Zero does is it's this really great resource that has a bunch of thinking routines that basically, so your thinking routines would be structures that students use to think more critically about a topic. Yep. So it's visible thinking. Yep. So it's a way to make thinking visible so that we can kind of get an idea of what's going on in students' heads, right? So some of the common routines that they have there that you probably heard lots about would be think, pair, share. We do that a lot. I see that done often in classrooms.
I've seen this one done a lot too.
Structure.
Oh, you have that listed.
See, think, and wonder is another one that I see a lot where what do you see, what do you think about it, and what does it make you wonder? I do see that a lot. There are some other ones that are more common. I've seen
this one. I used to think, but now I think.
So we
don't do it often enough, but I have seen that. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be linked as well on the slide for this episode. And there are so many thinking routines on there that kind of, and it's organized in a beautiful way, and they're explained so well. So if you are looking for some structure, if you do thinking logs already, or if you want to implement some, this is a great place for some structures to help you with that piece. Yeah. The last one I was going to mention real quick was exit slips with reflection questions attached. So we a lot of people do exit slips. They do exit slips.
You said do.
Yes, I did. But I thought it would be really easy just to add a reflection. Like, okay, so how did I feel I did on my lesson today? Like, they fill out the exit slip, and today's lesson was, and then you could have a 1 through 4 scale, or however you want to do that. But it would be an easy addition to your exit slips to add that reflection piece.
Can I add this on too? I'm going to. I don't know why I'm asking you. So when I did kindergarten and even second grade, And you may have middle school and high schoolers, maybe, that don't like to pick up a pencil. They don't like to write the reflection. We live in a digital age. There is no reason why they can't record their reflections. I saw somebody use this. You might have been there with me. She had a selfie center.
Yes.
And
I don't remember what
it was
training it was, but yes.
We went to a training, and her selfie center. It was at ISTE.
I had to. She
had a selfie center, and I loved it. And it was with first grade, and she had academic things, but they went over and they actually reflected on their work. So they would take a picture of their work and then they would reflect on it. But you can use that in any way, shape, or form. And that was prior to one-to-one. Mm-hmm. She just had an iPad in the corner of her room, and that she used that as a selfie center. So I think that would be an easy way to also provide different avenues.
Way to reflect, a verbal reflection.
Right.
It takes me back to last year when we were doing all the tech integration things.
Yes.
And we were like, Flipgrid. Although it's not Flipgrid anymore. It's now just called Flip.
Yeah.
But
Flipgrid is another. Yeah.
Yes.
See, so, I mean, there are millions of them. Millions of them. Okay.
Okay, so let's see. So that means, let's talk about student goals. So a great way for students to reflect is for them to make goals. So when they make goals, they can describe what they are clear about and what they are confused about, because they have that criteria that they need. They can describe their levels of effort and relationship of their effort to their learning. All things, good things to reflect about. They can describe what they might do to improve their learning. So student goals are extremely powerful, and I feel like we should have an entire episode on student goals.
Yeah, I agree. And we did have a student goal session last year, but it's really weird. I knew we were recording this today, but that's not why I had this. We've been having these conversations in our building because these are actually some of the goals teachers are setting. Like, how can I get students to do this? It is one way that students take ownership of the learning, and then they advocate. But the conversations we had, and the older grades don't do. You would never have a high school kid say, "I want to get a 17 on the PSAT." You would never pick a number and say, this is what I'm going to do, right? That is not a goal. You don't set, I'm going to make a 245 on reading maps. That may be the overall goal. Like, I want to grow an area. I want to hit this number. That's fine. But that's really not the action steps of the goal. That's fine. I want to have this goal. I want to make it to this level. But really now you have to talk about what they're taking ownership of, what actions. Like you said, they're going to describe what they're going to do.
Yes.
So it's not that I'm going to be in the green on Dibbles or blue on Dibbles, whatever that is. I want to be a better reader. That's my goal. And I'm going to do these things to do it.
And those criteria are what they're reflecting on.
And wouldn't our proficiency scales help kids with that?
I'm super excited.
I am so excited
to
about
add
those.
that layer when we're ready. Yes, for sure.
I mean, that's the ticket.
Okay, so we talked so far about individual reflection. So Tiffany, I think it's your turn to tell us about how we can organize our students to interact.
I get the easy part. Always. Okay, so I too chose a quote. I did. It's funny. So when we're talking about organizing students to interact, it is described as students, as how powerful it is that when student interaction, when organized and executed properly, man, that's hard to do, can enhance the impact of all the other elements in this design area especially. So remembering that this design area is highlighting strategies that commonly appear in all types of lessons. So knowing that when we are talking through all these different podcasts, there's certain times we use this and there's certain times we use that. And we have all these things in our little suitcase of teacher strategies and teacher tools. But it's so funny. I'm glad I'm not on camera. I'm carrying my little suitcase across the table here. Oh my goodness
And it's
gracious.
little too.
Yes, because clearly I don't have strategies. Mine's little and easy to carry. So when we are thinking about strategies that appear in all types of lessons, we want to think about students. When we know we're doing this effectively, we are seeing that students are moving quickly and with purpose to their groups. They are treating each other with respect. They interact in a manner that deepens their understanding, and they work efficiently in those groups.
So you're telling me that I can't just decide we're going to do groups and I can't just say, complete this task as a group. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm telling you, you can, but you have to have planned that ahead of time. You have to know, you have to have thought things out. So when you have this tool, in my mind, in your little pocket, that is a strategy to pull out. And I'm going to give you an example here in a minute. So Jen talked about Think, Pair, Share earlier. That is an excellent strategy. Kids don't always have to move. I'm going to give you some examples they can, though. So a lot of times we say, turn to your partner, and they're just turning to their next door neighbor partner. But have you thought about who their next door neighbor partner is? So I've seen teachers do reading. You have your reading time partners. You have your math time partners. High school, do you let kids sit where they want? Do you have clock partners where you've chosen sometimes their partners? Do you do random partners? Because there are kids that need that thinking with others. There are kids that will pair up that the thinking doesn't go as deep. Sometimes you want it random, but sometimes you want to choose their thought partner. Another way I've seen Think, Pair, Share work is if you think blah, 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 stand on this side of the room. If you think this, stand on the other side of the room. Now pair up in your area and decide why you all chose that, and then we're going to listen to each other. So we share. We've also done the Think, Pair, Share square, right? So you get the two of you, we think this, and you're writing something down, pull out the most common or the thing you want to share out, then you square up. So you find another pair and you share yours with each other. Then from the four of you, you bring out the thing you want to share with the whole group. And you can have that going as long as you want, or you can then call out on people. So it's just a way to up something that you may already be doing that's comfortable, and you can up it.
Yep.
Have you seen it in other ways?
No. Think, Pair, Share, Square
Right.
is probably the only way I've seen that one up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's that when you pair up too, when it's this side of the room, that side of the room, or the square, go to that corner of the room, that corner of the room. The important part is to have them talk about why they chose that.
Yes.
And then listen to why others have chose that. And that's more easily managed than some of the other cooperative learning things. Like there are some and that's one you could pull out of your pocket.
Yes, that one doesn't
Okay.
take a lot of pre-planning.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to. Like Jigsaw takes a lot of pre-planning.
Yes.
Which you pre-plan, and that is very powerful sometimes, but you also want to have some things in your pocket. Another one that is the fishbowl. And we're laughing because
You couldn't even say it without
I
chuckling.
can't even say it without laughing. It can be a powerful strategy. However, I'm going to say this with a disclaimer. So let me explain what a fishbowl strategy is. A fishbowl strategy is when you have one group that is sitting in a spot and the rest of the class is literally around them, watching them talk through a process or have a conversation or model something. And that can be extremely intimidating for some. It can be very off task for the ones watching. I would never pull this out of my pocket unless, so here's my disclaimer. I have used this successfully in a third grade classroom, but it works like this. I knew what I wanted to do. First of all, the class already had established respectful behavior for each other. I would never choose some kids that were not risk takers the first time I did it. And thirdly, the people watching had look-fors. So they knew what they were watching for instead of just look at this, look at these kids. I think that is really awkward. I know when I've participated in Fishbowl, if I'm not told what I'm looking for, I don't know. I get off task, but that's me and my weird brain.
I don't know that I've ever utilized the Fishbowl with students being the model. I have partnered with a student, like to model how we sit side by side. Like we fishbowled where I'm part of the model.
Like Teach-Tos. Oh,
yep.
So let me give you a great example, and this could be any grade level. So we did this in 3rd grade. So they were struggling with showing their multiplication in different flexible thinking models. We had gone through lots of models, and instead of giving them their workbook packet, I pulled out 4 different problems, and I split the kids up intentionally into different groups. And then I gave them this big piece of paper. I said, here's your problem. I want you to show it in 2 different ways. Use 2 models and show it. Now, I hadn't intended on using Fishbowl. I have had kids explain their thinking, but I knew of this strategy. I knew this class got along really well. And so then what we did is this one group, as I'm listening, because I'm wandering around the room, we talked about that, right? I'm not sitting back and just letting the kids go and then calling on kids. I'm wandering around the room. I'm listening to their math talk. I'm giving them guided support. But this group, holy cow, they were modeling how to include everyone into the group. They were modeling this math thinking. They were like, well, but if we do, they were using all this math talk. So I quietly asked them if they would model how they decided on which models to use, how did they decided on who would use the pen, how they decided on how then they talked to each other and made sure everyone understood. Because I'm going to share this next strategy, that one of our agreements was when we worked in groups, everyone in the group was responsible of understanding, so that if I called on someone, anyone in the group could explain. So those were norms we'd already set up. And they felt comfortable, except for one kid in the group. And I said, that's okay. You are just going to do what you just did. And so, but I'm going to give you another problem very similar so you can start from the beginning. So then while they were finishing their work, I pulled the rest of the class together and I said, you guys, this is so awesome. And I'm looking at your work, and we've done a lot of work on math talk and how we want that, and who's going to hold the pen and how we do this when we do group work in math versus your workbook. These are the things I want you to look for. And I wrote them up on the board. Look for this, look for this, look for this. Right? Mm-hmm. So it really wasn't about the math. It was about the math talk and the group work. So then they stood around and we watched these kids do it, and they were uncomfortable, but these are 3rd graders, but they did a great job. And then we debriefed and we said, what did you see? Tell me about these things. What did you see? I'm going to give everybody another problem. Let's see if you can model that. I mean, it was phenomenal.
I really like those additions you added to Fishbowl.
Yeah.
Because the look-fors and then the debrief after.
The really, debrief was about the look-fors.
So we're doing reflection.
Yeah.
In the Fishbowl strategy.
And like so then what we did is we went around and we then had to try everybody else's strategy. Right. But then they already had the comfort of, okay, who's going to hold it? There wasn't a fight of who talks. And so, which leads me to the last strategy. So there are a million. Is that a number?
It sounds great.
Quadrillion.
Sounds like a good number.
Of cooperative learning strategies. I mean, we could do a whole year of podcasts on cooperative learning. So the last one that is part of Fishbowl or group work that I think is really important is numbered heads together. So when kids are in a group and they're doing a task together, I give everybody a number. And this is one I can pull out of my hat because I can just go around and say, you're number 1, number 2, number 3. And then I tell the kids, if I pull number 1 out, that's who's going to be reporting. And so that really ups that level of, you have to talk to each other. Everybody needs to fully understand what's going on and how to explain your thinking, because I can call on anybody. It also means that because we talked about this last week, am not calling on the kids that I want to manage. that I think weren't listening. And I'm not always calling on the kids that I know can answer it because it makes me feel better. So that's a way to manage myself as a teacher, as well as giving every kid a chance to do the learning and learn together. It's just huge. Anyway, okay. So we have talked a while today, but obviously we're passionate about these things. So when we're thinking about implications for change in our classrooms, we as educators really need to view learning for ourselves and for students as a constructive process in which students constantly are updating their knowledge. I know we talk about our proficiency scales of mastery, but there is those level 4s, 5s, and 25s, right? It's always a continuous process, and it should be for us too. So it requires interaction. We can't learn from our iPad and a workbook page.
Right.
Solely, not deep learning.
I think we've learned a lot about that as we move to one-on-one devices. So
correct.
We just got to keep remembering that. There's a balance.
There has to be a balance. And we also learn that they need multiple exposures to things.
Yeah.
They need the explicit teaching. They need the time to practice before they perform. And that takes multiple exposures. And then again, there's the time factor. So when we're creative about this, we should. And so she's pointing so I stay on task.
I'm just watching the time.
I know. So this may be a cultural shift in your classrooms. But if it is, and you are interested, we would love to partner with you in this learning if this is an area of interest, or any of your instructional coaches would. So please reach out.
So thanks for listening to Pivot, Inspire, Elevate with Tiffany and Jennifer. We hope that you enjoyed our conversation today around student reflection and the design area, using strategies that appear in all types of lessons.
Okay, so if you found this episode helpful, or even if it just gave you something to think about, leave a rating, leave a comment, share this with others, and don't forget to subscribe. So if you ring that bell, click that bell so you know when new episodes are released. You can also head over to the Tech Lounge, which is linked in this YouTube underneath, to check out any other resources. Like you mentioned today, you were going to link some in.
I will have a couple links.
I don't have any links.
That's okay.
Okay. So we'll catch you next time. And remember, never stop growing, never stop learning, never stop sharing.